Now, for every Batman.
Speaking of Batman.
There's a whole host of Jokers and Penguins and Riddlers and is it Mr. Freeze or Dr. Freeze? I can't remember. Something Freeze. Something Freeze.
I think it's Dr. Freeze.
You got the Cowboys. You got the Cowboys who never, at least not in the last 30 years, finished the season where they're trying to go, but they continue to be entertaining. I mean, really, when you think about it, it's a shame the Chiefs and the Cowboys aren't in the same conference, because that would be the ultimate comparison between the team that always finds a way to win and the team that always finds a way to not win at a sufficiently high level, as evidenced by the fact they haven't been to the NFC Championship since literally 1995. We have the saying of the offseason. If we had an offseason T-shirt, it would be all in.
For the whole NFL, I think it would be. For any fan of the NFL, all in. That is the slogan.
Because it comes up, anytime a team makes a real move on the PFT writers text chain, somebody inevitably will do in all caps, all in,
right?
Because it shows the Cowboys what they're not doing. Stephen Jones, who has to carry around this burden of Jerry, his father, spouting off all in over and over and over again when he was talking to reporters at the Senior Bowl. Here's Stephen Jones on Jerry Jones uttering that now infamous catchphrase and the team's lack of spending in free agency this offseason from 105.3 The Fan in Dallas. Here he is.
Everybody can have their own definition of what that means, but I've never not known us to be all in, nor have I known anybody we compete against not to be all in. Well, at the end of the day, you always can only, and we spend max money, year in and year out. All 32 can only spend the same amount of money over a 5-year stretch. And when we're all said and done, we max out our salary cap every year. And we will have done that. And, what comes with having a good roster, which we do, and, we also, are looking towards signing our own guys. It doesn't mean it happens overnight, but when you're wanting to sign players like Dak and Micah and CD, then, that certainly you have to hold money back if you want to have a realistic chance at signing those guys.
What they have managed to do is take a phrase that had an almost universal meaning. We all know what it means when you go all in.
Yep.
We all know. We all know what that means. You're putting your chips into the middle of the table. You're putting everything on the line for this year, this season, this hand, this whatever. Whatever this iteration is of whatever it is you're doing, you are doing boom, everything, middle of the table, let's go. That's what that word always meant. They have managed to take that and completely warp and twist it into a word that means whatever you want it to mean, except all in. All in meant one thing forever, and now all in means everything but what it always meant. They've gone all in on changing the definition of all in, and they won.
They did. They won. We've all changed because of it. It's we've talked about them a lot, right? A lot of this is their own doing. I mean, not only their own doing by Jerry Jones, kind of with that phrase, saying that, cornering the whole organization within saying all in. Right? They've also cornered themselves, like we've talked about a few times over the last week, with the way they've structured contracts and done things, right? And where I'll defend them a little bit, Mike. I will say this is, I do think they're a perennial all-in type of football team. I do. Right? Now, they might not be the best at balancing the cap or, figuring out, wait, this guy might not be the best answer for us 2 years down the road, but we throw too much money at him for 1 or 2 years, whatever it may be, right? So there's issues there that seem to handcuff them at times in certain years. And it feels like it's like every third or fourth year with Dallas, this kind of comes about where it's like, well, they can't do a whole lot or can't do anything here because they got contracts due and they got, money that they used in the past that now is used up, whatever it may be, where I do think they are we're not trying to be relevant. We're trying to win the Super Bowl and do all of that, but I don't know if they just plan all that well at times to get there. And that's where, now there's egg on their face and they say all in. And it's like, for them, they can't do much more, than what they're doing. They really can't. I got to defend them there. He said it right. They got 3 guys that they got to pay. That's their own doing, right? But they can't go all in from the normal phrase because they're all in a shitstorm with 3 guys they didn't pay that they should have paid already.
See, you're just proving that their effort to warp and distort the meaning
distorting
of the phrase
distorting
all in
me
is working.
Yeah.
It's working.
Well,
because
they're
that's the thing.
Yes. I hear you. I know.
If they're just doing what they do all the time, then this isn't all in. It can't be all in. It's not all in. All in implies a dramatic change in what you ordinarily would do. If you're playing poker and you're sprinkling a few chips here or there and you're doing your usual thing, and then all of a sudden you make that lightning strike all-in move. That's what it is. And that's not what they're doing. They can't do it. Why did he ever even say it?
That's
it's like he heard it somewhere.
That's the real
and
question.
And he said, that sounds good. I'm just going to say that over and over again. It speaks to the lunacy.
It's a bad message.
Of the shit that comes out of people's mouths sometimes. And I'm not picking on Jerry Jones here. We all get in a situation where we say something that, that probably isn't what I should have said.
Like the 49ers are in a different class than the Ravens, and that the Ravens are in trouble. Like things like that. Right.
Exactly. That the Ravens are going to lose.
By 30, you said.
Humbling fashion. Yeah. And you know what? I mean, but at least when I was wrong, I owned it.
Yeah.
I didn't try to say, well, you know what? They really did lose. They really did lose because they didn't make it to the Super Bowl and the 49ers did. So they really did lose that night. They emerged from that game with an overconfidence that they'd be able to run the table and get to the Super Bowl. So I was right all along. I mean, they're taking this term. It's almost like NFL gaslighting. And that was a word I'd never even heard of until
just a few years ago,
16-ish.
Right.
But it's kind of what they're doing, and it's working. Oh yeah, maybe all in doesn't mean all in. Maybe they are all in every year. Maybe all in isn't what I thought all in always.
So wait,
was.
let's just get to this, because like right, like all in. I hear you, right? I mean, you're right. I'm trying to defend them a little bit in the fact that I do think they're all in a certain fashion, but they don't necessarily plan the right way to where they can make it look like it's all in on a year like this. They don't do things the right way. But so drastic all in, right? What I want to say, and this is not just to you, it's everybody out there. Like, what did everybody want the Cowboys to do, right? Did we think that maybe they might just go all in and go, wait, let's blow it up, see you later, Dak Prescott, or see you later, CeeDee Lamb, or Micah Parsons, right? So he should have never used the phrase, but what I'm saying is off of that phrase, what did we expect them to do, I think, with their current situation, I think is fair to ask.
And, I asked Courtney if she could find the original clip from Jerry Jones, because I think what it was, if I recall correctly, and there's a good chance I don't, as I proved yesterday when I couldn't remember where we spent 10 days in advance of the Super Bowl. In my defense, it all does kind of blur together one year after the next, and I have to think, which year were we here and which year were we there, and good Lord, I can't keep it straight anymore. But I think Jerry was dealing with the very precise and specific question of what are you going to do to get to the next level, to take Mike McCarthy, who most thought, remember the Emmitt Smith rant in Las Vegas this year? I remember now. It was Las Vegas. Emmitt Smith's epic rant on our show that Friday morning of Super Bowl.
His was blow it up kind of.
He's beside himself.
Yeah.
But okay, we're not making any sudden moves. We're not making any big changes. Okay, Jerry, what are you going to do then to get to where you haven't been since 1995. Well, we're going all in. That's when he should have said what Steven said yesterday. Well, kind of hard to do much of anything because we've got Dak Prescott and this contract that we waited too long to do, and now we are in a tough spot as we try to figure out what the next deal is going to be for Dak. And we've got CeeDee Lamb. We've been dragging our feet with him. We got to do something about that. And now Michael Parsons is eligible for a new contract, and he's the best non-quarterback in the NFL. We can't say that out loud, though, because it'll cost us even more. We got to figure out what we're going to do with them. So we really can't do anything by way of adding players.
No.
Michael Parsons himself said in that same time frame, I hope we address the needs to get this team better that we didn't last year. Well, it's going to be even harder this year.
Yeah.
But that doesn't sound as good as all in.
No.
And that sounds like you're accepting this year, hey, folks, don't get your hopes up. Don't renew your season tickets. Don't go buy your jerseys. Don't get too excited because we really aren't going to be. And that's the core of it. And this is why I believe that Jerry Jones is more about waving the flag and saying, step right up and give me your money and come watch the Cowboys play because we're all in. We're kind of not. We kind of can't be all in. We can't. But all in sounds good during that window where it's time to renew your season tickets. But we're really not all in. And it's reinforcing my belief that he's just kind of a huckster for his team. And it works. It works. But at the end of the day, they don't know how to manage things in the right way. We talked about this last week.
That's what I think
Cheap,
it goes to. Short-sighted,
and not as smart as they think they are when it comes to dealing with their young star players that deserve second contracts.
I think that is the bottom line, right? That's what I think is the bottom line that stops them from being able to go all in on certain years because it's just not quite planned out in the same way as we've seen some of the other top organizations in football, right? I think that's the big thing. But yeah, I mean, all in does not mean we re-sign Jordan Lewis and Eric Kendricks, and free agency, and Lewis is off of an injury, and that's not all in when you go, hold on, that's all in, and we lost Tony Pollard, no more Michael Gallup, no more left tackle, no more, center, and I always mess up his name. Went to the Commanders. Biadasz, right? Exactly right. Biadasz, exactly right. Thank you. No more Dorrance Armstrong. It was a good role edge rusher. Dante Fowler Jr., same type of thing, right? Jonathan Hankins in the middle, Neville Gallimore in the middle, Leighton Vander Esch doesn't look like he's playing anymore. No more Stephon Gilmore. Jaron Kearse, the safety who started for them. And, we know their defense is one of the better defenses in football. They lost Dan Quinn, right? It's a little bit of a different scheme with Mike Zimmer. How could a Cowboy fan feel like the team is better right now or going to be better next year than it was last year or the year before? That's the reality of the situation, and that goes back to what you said, what I said, that it's just been not the quite tip-top planning we've seen maybe from other organizations, and that's why Dallas is in this mess right now.
And again, the more I talk about it, the more I think about it, I really do believe I'm onto something with this idea that Jerry Jones is more motivated by keeping the Cowboys on the short list of clearly the most valuable asset in the NFL, the Dallas Cowboys, but keeping them in a spot where we're all clamoring, all the networks want as many Cowboys games as possible, even if they're not going to be very good this year. They still deliver. It's exciting, it's fun, and it's profitable for Jerry Jones, highly profitable for Jerry Jones. And keeping that team with its profile for 30 years without getting even to an NFC championship game is far more impressive than winning the Super Bowl in any one year. It's amazing what he's done for that team.
He's trying to have it both ways, it feels like. It's a little bit of like, I want to try both, but you can't do it, right? And that's like you always talk about with a great team or whatever. At some point, it's like, wait, we might have to take a step back for a year or two to take 2 or 3 steps forward to become, now we're in a spot where we're upper echelon, cream of the crop, and we're set up for a number of years to be good like that. And it doesn't feel like sometimes that's happened there in Dallas over the last 20 years.
Yeah, and that's absolutely right. And they don't want that year or two where they take a step back because then the luster comes off of the star and you got to put it back on. How do you put it back on? The only way you're putting it back on is to go win 3 Super Bowls in 4 years. I mean, because think about where the Cowboys were when Jerry Jones bought the team. It was kind of sluggish.
Step back. We don't have a lot of assets. Right.
Yeah, and they weren't very good through the 80s. It felt more like a crumbling of everything they had.
Kind of
in
just
the
hung
70s.
in there. Right.
And it all bottoms out, and Jerry comes in, buys the team, gets rid of Tom Landry, the only coach the team had ever had, and it worked. Jimmy Johnson helped them turn it around, and they've been riding that for 30 years. They have been riding what they did by winning 3 and 4 years for 30 years. It's incredible. It really is. I mean, look at how long it took for the Patriots to be just regarded as another crappy team. It fell apart fast after everything they did. The Cowboys managed to keep just enough to be relevant and competitive, even if not even close to being ultimately successful for 30 years.
Well, yeah.
And maybe they want that. And you know, again, what is the strategy here? That's what's the irony, if I'm using the word correctly, and I never, ever know if I am. They're never all in. They can't go all in because they don't want the backside of what all in means. Even if they would win a Super Bowl, they don't want that Rams of 2022 where it all falls apart. They just want to keep it. They want to stay on the porch. If we never kick in the door, so be it. We just want to stay on the porch. If we stay on the porch, we're going to be America's team indefinitely. We're just staying on the porch. No sudden moves, no all in, no effort to load it all up in any one year because of what it might do the next year or the year after. We're just going to stay on the porch. Just good enough is just good enough. I've said that about the Vikings. I've got Steelers fans who think they're that way. Cowboys, underneath all the bluster and talk about all in and glory hole and all that stuff. I was trying to make you do a spit take, but I timed it just. I thought I timed it just right. But all that talk is just talk. It's just talk. They're just trying to stay in striking distance, plausible striking distance. But that doesn't sell shit. That doesn't get people to renew their season ticket. Sooner or later, the fans are going to be like, why do we keep going to these games? Why do we keep watching these games? Why do we keep frustrating ourselves with this team that really isn't trying to win it all? They're just trying to stay close enough. And when you look at the reaction to an embarrassment at home in the wild card round, it was an abject and complete ass-kicking embarrassment that the Cowboys took. They were caught flat-footed. They were caught unprepared. Nobody saw it coming.
Yeah.
Remember Mike McCarthy saying that? Nobody saw it coming. You should have seen it coming. You're the coach of the team. You're the guy that needs to understand that this Packers team that you coached for all those years is pretty damn good right now, and you better be ready to beat them. They're fine with it. In the aftermath of that, instead of Jerry Jones saying, to quote, and you haven't said it in a while, but, you know, the guy in Top Gun, I want some butts when he has the coffee. Oh, that's twice.
Yeah.
Instead, there was no anger. There was nothing. They wait a few days, and they issue a statement saying, we love Mike McCarthy. He's coming back. So that's the background. That's the context where All In first emerged. He's got to convince us, even though he's content to keep Mike McCarthy because he's too cheap to pay him to not coach the team this year, he's got to come up with something to make people think he really does want to win. And he's really trying to lay the foundation for a program that can win a Super Bowl. So I think we figured it out.
I hear you there. I mean, listen, I hear you there. He's trying to, yes, stay relevant. There's no doubt, especially in a division where, you know, the Eagles have a super team right now. And, you know, to your point too, hey, the owner of the greatest team in the league right now lives in town with them there in Dallas, and the Hunt family and the Kansas City Chiefs. You know, so, yeah, there's that going on. There's trying to save face for that. There's trying to have it both ways a little bit. Hey, we're all in. We're still staying relevant, whatever. And I think the thing that kind of makes it comical, laughable, and why it even becomes more of a thing, right? You know, and listen, there's a lot of smart people in football this year that, you know, kind of saying maybe what you're saying a little bit. Like, you know, maybe they just this team blow it up and start from scratch and rebuild here, right? Instead of trying to hold on here with a lifeline and trying to paste it all together again, that oh, maybe in 2 years again we can go to a divisional playoff game and lose again, right? I mean, that's kind of where it seems like we're headed to, and I think there's some smart people in football that, I've heard, and even people on TV that would go, well, I would have blown it up in Dallas this year. And I don't think that's a crazy thought. I don't, right? But I think the other thing that makes it laughable with them a little bit, and I think they're a little more all in than you do. Okay, I'll just state that. I think you made your point, and I think a lot of what you said is real. But I do think, they want to win a Super Bowl, Jerry Jones. He's dying to win, and have his own little era here that showed it wasn't Jimmy Johnson. That's where I guess I believe in that, right?
Hell of a way of showing it.
Right.
They got a hell of a way of doing it.
Well,
they got
yeah.
a hell of a way of making it happen.
I hear you. And then I think the other thing that makes it worse and makes them a meme and whatever else is when they do have that year where we go, oh, wait, they're legit this year, right? They can't win the damn game to get over the hump. I mean, 2007, they're the number 1 seed. They're the best team in the NFC. They let the Giants come into Dallas, upset them. Eli Manning, go on, beat the 49ers, win the Super Bowl. They dropped the ball there, right? You got 2014, the Des Bryant catch game. They were legit that year. They could have won the Super Bowl. They were every bit as good as Seattle or New England or whatever. Right, so they dropped the ball there. 2016, looks like they're the best team in football. Oh, Aaron Rodgers rolls left, throws a ball that nobody on planet can make. Boom. Oh, Green Bay upset him. See you later, right? You got the spike quarterback draw play against the 49ers that became comical with the mishandling of the clock situation. So they've been in some spots, I think, to what we're talking about where it's all lined up the right way. And then they've kind of, crapped the bed, for lack of a better phrase there. Sorry, Liverpool. And that, I think, has even made people pile on even more with this type of situation, let alone like a loss in the playoffs like you've talked about and all of that. I think it all plays into why we're laughing about this right now.
But, you're making a great point because there's a thread that goes back almost 20 years. You left out Tony Romo botching the snap.
Oh, you're right.
Play that caused Bill Parcells to retire and never come back. Right?
Right.
But, I mean, there's this thread of.
Go ahead.
We have these great seasons.
2 or 3 years.
Something happens. When are we ever going to learn from it? What are we ever going to do? Wouldn't that be top of mind for Jerry and Stephen Jones as we get closer and closer to the playoffs? We're going to have the conversation with the head coach here. We got to get together and say, okay, we're going to study. We're going to be self-aware here. We're going to study everything that has gone wrong for us since Tony Romo screwed up the snap on the game-winning field goal that would have been if he hadn't screwed up the snap. We're gonna figure out everyone after that. Everything you mentioned, the Cabo thing, that's my quarterback. The Terrell Owens pretending to cry after the game because Tony Romo went on vacation during the bye week, and that somehow caused them to lose. And every other failure they've had. Like, when are we going to learn from it? And I keep thinking about Mike McCarthy saying nobody saw it coming. Nobody saw it coming. You should have seen it coming. You've been part of, on the victorious side, one of these Cowboys seasons that went to crap. He was the coach of the Packers in the game where Rodgers made that throw that took down the Cowboys. Right. He was the coach of the Packers in the Des Cottet game. He knows, or should know, that there's something that is missing. There's something in the wiring of the organization that is missing when it's time to go to the playoffs. That's what they need to be focusing on. That's what they need to be concerned about. But instead, they're caught in this mess that they've made by screwing around with Dak's contract when they should have paid him back in 2018, 2019, and now dragging their feet with CeeDee Lamb and trying to get ahead of this whole Micah Parsons thing. Remember, Stephen Jones was on the station where they were musing within the past 2 weeks that Micah Parsons is wearing thin on the Cowboys. I mean, come on. Get these guys taken care of. Make them the foundation of your team. Other teams know how to do it. The Cowboys don't. And it's just amazing to me. It's amazing. They want it. They all want it. I'd say most teams, not all teams. Most teams truly do want to win a Super Bowl, and most owners are tormented by the fact when they fail. I'll believe that. But I just feel like, some teams have a good plan and some teams don't. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.